planet burned like a dying sun. Flames painted the sky red and black. Ash fell like snow, covering broken cities and silent streets. The war had ended, but only silence remained. No life, no laughter, only the ghosts of what once was. A human rescue ship cut through the smoke, landing on the destroyed alien world. Inside the ship, Captain Ryan looked out the window, his eyes tired and full of sorrow. He had seen too many wars, too many dead. But this world felt different. It felt wrong. The scanners showed no sign of life, but Ryan didn't trust machines anymore. He trusted only his heart. "Search every sector," he ordered quietly. His team nodded and stepped into the gray ruins. Buildings lay crushed like paper. The air smelled of burned metal and dust. Every step echoed like thunder through the emptiness. Ryan walked through what had once been a school. Tiny chairs, broken toys, faded walls, all reminders of lives lost. He clenched his jaw, trying not to feel. But then he heard it. A sound. A soft cry. Too weak to be human. Too small to be dangerous. He followed the sound through the rubble. A cracked wall. A pile of stones. And under them, a tiny movement. Ryan dropped to his knees, moving the debris with his hands. There she was. A small alien girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, her skin pale blue like moonlight. Her big eyes looked up at him, full of fear and pain. She didn't speak. She only cried. Ryan froze for a moment. He had seen aliens before. Soldiers, traitors, politicians, but never a child. His men shouted behind him, "Captain, we have to go. Radiation levels rising." But Ryan didn't move. He looked at the girl, fragile, shaking, her tiny hands clutching a broken pendant. She was the only thing alive in a dead world. "Easy," Ryan whispered. He took off his gloves and slowly reached out his hand. The girl flinched, hiding her face. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." For a moment she didn't move. Then slowly, she touched his hand. Her skin was cold, too cold. Ryan lifted her gently, wrapping his jacket around her trembling body. His men watched in disbelief. "Sir, we can't take her. It's against the rules," one of them said. Ryan looked at them, his eyes hard. "Rules didn't save this planet," he said. He walked toward the ship, the child in his arms. No one dared stop him. Inside the ship, the girl stared at everything. Lights, walls, faces, all strange to her. She whispered something in her alien tongue. Ryan couldn't understand, but he felt the sadness in her voice. He sat beside her and offered a small piece of bread. She didn't eat, just looked at him, eyes wide and lost. He smiled gently. "It's food. You'll like it." After a moment, she took a bite. A tear rolled down her cheek. As the ship lifted off, Ryan looked out the window. The planet grew smaller, disappearing into the black sea of space. He wondered how many lives had been lost, how many children like her had never been found. The girl leaned against his arm, already falling asleep. Ryan felt something inside him shift, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. He whispered, "You're safe now." The crew watched in silence. They knew their captain had just broken galactic law. Humans were not allowed to interfere with alien species after war, especially not to take them home. But no one said a word. In that moment, even they couldn't deny what they saw. A soldier saving a child. The ship disappeared into the stars. Behind them, a dead world burned quietly. In Ryan's arms, the alien girl slept. The last survivor of her race. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know what trouble he had just invited. He only knew one thing. He couldn't leave her to die. Because no matter what species she was just a child, and sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can change the course of galaxies. The sky above Earth was calm that night. Stars shined like quiet eyes watching from the dark. Ryan's ship entered the atmosphere, glowing softly as it crossed the clouds. Inside, the small alien girl lay wrapped in a gray blanket, still asleep. Ryan sat beside her, wondering what he had done. He had rescued her from the ruins, but now he had no plan. Bringing an alien child to Earth was forbidden by galactic law. If the Council found out, he could lose everything, his rank, his freedom, even his life. But when he looked at her small face, he didn't care. He only saw a lost child who needed someone. The ship landed quietly near the old spaceport. Ryan carried her through the cold night toward his home, a small wooden house on the edge of the city, far from the crowd. The stars reflected in her eyes as she woke up slowly. She looked around, confused and scared. Ryan smiled softly. "It's okay. You're safe now." Inside the house, the lights were warm. Old books, maps, and a picture of Ryan's late wife filled the room. The girl touched everything gently, as if the world might break beneath her fingers. She stopped at the photo frame, pointing to it. Ryan said quietly, "That was my wife. She's gone now." The girl didn't understand the words, but she understood the sadness. She placed her small blue hand on his arm, and for the first time, Ryan smiled. He made her soup, but she didn't know what to do with it. She stared at the spoon like it was a strange tool from another world. Ryan chuckled, showing her how to eat. She watched carefully, then copied him, spilling half of it. He laughed softly, and she laughed too. A small, broken laugh, but real. It was the first time she had laughed since the war. Days passed slowly. Ryan taught her words in English, simple ones. Water, home, safe, Ryan. She learned fast, repeating everything in her soft musical voice. He gave her a name, Lyra, because her voice reminded him of a forgotten song. The name stayed with her, and she smiled every time he said it, but not everyone was happy. His neighbors whispered behind closed doors. Did you hear? The captain brought an alien home. They say she's dangerous. Aliens destroyed our cities once. Why keep one alive? Ryan ignored them, but he could feel their eyes every time he walked outside. He only said one thing. She's a child, not a threat. At night, Lyra sat by the window, staring at the stars. Sometimes she whispered in her alien tongue, a sad melody that made Ryan's chest ache. He knew she missed her world, her family, her people, but all he could do was sit beside her, silent. He told her stories about Earth, oceans, forests, snow. She listened, eyes wide, as if those things were magic. When he said the word home, she repeated it slowly. Home, she whispered, and for a moment she smiled. One evening, Ryan took her to a park at the city's edge. Children were playing, laughing, running. Lyra watched from a distance, hiding behind his leg. A small human boy came over and smiled at her. He offered her a toy, a little plastic spaceship. She blinked in surprise, then took it carefully. The boy ran back to his friends, and Lyra looked up at Ryan. Friend, she said softly, and Ryan's heart warmed. That night, she drew pictures with crayons he had given her. Stars, planets, a small house, and two figures holding hands. Ryan watched quietly from the doorway. For the first time, his lonely home felt alive again. But peace doesn't last forever. One morning, he saw two black ships hovering far above the city, government drones, scanning for alien energy signals. Ryan's heart tightened. If they found Lyra, they would take her away. He quickly turned off every light, covering the windows. Lyra looked at him, frightened. Ryan, hat wrong? He knelt beside her, whispering, We must stay quiet, Lyra. They can't find you. Outside, the ships passed slowly, beams of blue light sweeping over rooftops. Lyra hid under the table, clutching her toy spaceship. Ryan waited until the sound faded into the distance. Only then did he exhale. He sat down beside her and held her hand. She whispered, They look for me. Ryan nodded. Yes, but I won't let them take you. Her small eyes filled with tears. Why you help me? He smiled sadly. Because no one helped me when I needed it. Later that night, as she slept, Ryan sat by the window staring at the stars. He knew he couldn't hide her forever, but he also knew he could never give her up. Outside, the city lights flickered, unaware of the secret hidden in one small house. And in that house, a man who had lost everything was learning to love again. And a child who had lost her world was learning what it meant to live. The universe would soon notice them both. But for now, Earth was quiet, and the saddest alien girl had finally found a home. Morning sunlight touched the edge of Ryan's house. The warmth filled the small rooms, but his heart felt heavy. For weeks, he had tried to keep Lyra hidden, but the world was beginning to notice. Strange signals were moving through the galaxy, and whispers about the alien child on Earth were spreading fast. Ryan sat at the table staring at the news screen. The Galactic Council had issued a new broadcast. Any human found harboring alien life will face immediate punishment, the voice said coldly. Behind the words, the council's silver emblem shone like a warning star. Ryan's hand trembled slightly as he turned it off. He looked toward Lyra, who was playing quietly with her crayons, drawing stars and planets. She was happy, innocent, unaware that her existence had become illegal. Later that day, a message flashed on his communicator. It was from an old friend, Commander Hale, still serving in the Galactic Foe. Versus, Ryan, the message said, the council knows about the girl. They're sending agents to Earth. Ryan felt his stomach twist. He knew what the council did to rule breakers. They didn't ask questions. They erased problems. He walked to the window and saw a faint line of lights in the far sky, ships moving in formation. Not human ones. He knew what that meant. They were already coming. That night, Ryan packed emergency supplies, food, medicine, a power core, and his old blaster. Lyra watched him quietly, her big blue eyes filled with confusion. Ryan, go? She asked softly. He smiled and shook his head. No, we go together. She tilted her head, not understanding everything, but trusting him completely. Trust, the one thing she had never known before him. Hours later, a soft hum filled the air outside. Lights swept across the forest behind his home. Ryan looked out the window and saw a silver ship landing silently among the trees. The Galactic Council's crest glowed on its hull. He grabbed Lyra's hand. We have to leave now, he whispered, but before they could move, a deep voice echoed from outside. Captain Ryan, by order of the Galactic Council, surrender the alien child. Ryan's heart pounded. He opened the door slowly and saw 3 figures in dark armor standing under the moonlight. Their faces were hidden behind glass helmets. The leader stepped forward, holding a glowing tablet. You've violated Galactic Law 47B, the man said. Humans are forbidden to form emotional attachments with alien species. Ryan clenched his jaw. She's just a child. She's a threat, the man replied coldly. Ryan looked at Lyra hiding behind him, shaking. She's not a threat. She's a survivor, he said. The leader raised his weapon. This is your last warning. Ryan's hand moved before he thought, pulling out his old blaster. A flash of light split the night. The agents ducked. Ked, one of them shouting, "He's resisting!" Ryan grabbed Lyra and ran through the back door. The forest came alive with light, beams of energy cutting through the darkness. Lyra stumbled, crying out, "Ryan, I'm scared!" "I know, keep running," he said, holding her hand tightly. They reached the river, the cold water glowing under the moon. Ryan pushed her into a small boat hidden among the reeds. "Stay low," he whispered. Shots echoed behind them, hitting trees and rocks. Ryan jumped in beside her, pushing the boat downstream. The agents' voices grew distant, fading into the night wind. By morning they reached the mountain valley, far from the city. Smoke rose from the distance where his house once stood. Ryan stared silently. He had lost everything again. Lyra looked at him, tears in her eyes. "Home gone?" she asked. Ryan nodded slowly. "Yes, but we'll build another one." She leaned against him, her voice small and trembling. "I'm sorry." He smiled weakly. "You don't have to be. It's not your fault." For a moment, peace returned, but not for long. Ryan's communicator blinked again. Another message from Commander Hale. "Ryan, listen carefully," Hale's voice said. "The council is calling for a full hearing. They want you and the child to appear before them." Ryan frowned. "They'll take her away." Hale paused, then said, "Maybe. But they also fear her. They say she's not just a survivor. She's something else." Ryan looked at Lyra, who was watching a butterfly land on her hand. Her eyes glowed faintly with soft silver light. He remembered how the ground had shaken back on her planet when she cried. A strange thought entered his mind. Maybe Lyra wasn't just different. Maybe she was the key to something much greater. That night, as they camped near the mountains, Ryan sat by the fire, staring at the stars. He knew he couldn't hide her forever. Sooner or later he would have to face the council. But he also knew one thing for sure. He would never let them hurt her, no matter what law or star stood against him. Beside him, Lyra whispered. "Ryan, stars watch us?" He looked up at the endless sky and smiled faintly. "Yes, Lyra, they're watching. And maybe one day they'll understand." Far above them, unseen in the darkness, the galaxy turned slowly, and somewhere in its heart, powerful beings whispered about the human who broke the law of the stars. The cold wind moved through the mountain valley. Stars shimmered above, quiet and endless. Ryan and Lyra sat near a small fire, hidden among the rocks. Days had passed since they ran from the council agents. Ryan's body was tired, but his mind couldn't rest. Lyra slept beside him, her small form wrapped in a blanket, her face calm, glowing softly under the firelight. Ryan stared at her. She looked peaceful, but something inside her was changing. He had seen it before, the strange light that flickered in her eyes, the way the air trembled when she was scared or angry. He didn't understand it, but he could feel it. There was power inside her. Something beyond human knowledge. The next morning, Ryan heard voices near the river. He quickly grabbed his weapon and signaled Lyra to stay quiet. 2 strangers were collecting water. Travelers, not soldiers, but when one of them saw Lyra's blue skin, he froze. "That's the alien girl," he whispered. "The one from the broadcasts." Ryan pointed his weapon. "You didn't see anyone, understand?" The men nodded quickly and ran away. Ryan sighed, knowing that hiding was becoming impossible. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes full of worry. "Ryan, bad people come again?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Yes, but I'll protect you." She hesitated, then said quietly, "I protect you too." He smiled weakly, not realizing how serious her words were. That night, A storm rolled across the mountains. Thunder roared. Lightning split the sky. Lyra sat near the fire, hugging her knees, afraid of the noise. Ryan tried to calm her, but the ground began to shake. The fire flickered wildly. Stones cracked. "Lyra, stop!" he shouted. But she wasn't doing anything. Or maybe she was. The storm outside was answering her fear. The air itself seemed alive, spinning around her in glowing light. Ryan rushed to her, grabbing her shoulders. Her eyes had turned silver, bright like stars. "Lyra, breathe," he said. "You're safe. It's okay." Slowly, the shaking stopped. The storm quieted, and her eyes faded back to normal. She looked scared, whispering, "I make storm?" Ryan nodded slowly, unsure how to explain. "You have power, Lyra, something special," he said softly. Tears filled her eyes. "Power hurt people?" Ryan shook his head. "Only if you let fear control it." The next morning, Ryan contacted his old friend Hale again. "Hale, she's changing," he said. "I think her energy connects to something bigger." Hale's voice came through the static. "You don't understand, Ryan. Her kind weren't just victims. They were the reason the war began." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" "The Council believes her people could control energy itself. They called them the Solari, but they were wiped out because they were too powerful." Ryan went silent. He looked at Lyra, who was drawing flowers in the dirt, smiling innocently. "That little girl started a war," he said bitterly. Hale sighed. "Not her, but what she carries inside her could do it again." Days passed, and Ryan noticed more changes. Lyra could heal small wounds just by touching them. She could sense when danger was near. Sometimes, when she laughed, lights flickered around her like fireflies. She was becoming something the galaxy wasn't ready for. One night, they heard engines again. A search patrol flying low across the valley. Ryan pulled Lyra close, whispering, "Stay quiet." The ship's spotlight moved across the ground, stopping near their cave. Lyra trembled, her eyes glowing faintly. The ship's scanner beeped, detecting energy. Ryan cursed under his breath. "They found us." But before he could run, Lyra stepped forward. Her hands lifted and a wave of energy exploded from her palms. The air bent, the light shattered, and the ship spun out of control, crashing into the hills. Ryan stared in shock. "Lyra, what did you do?" She looked down, frightened. "I don't know." Flames rose in the distance, lighting up the night sky. Ryan pulled her close, whispering, "We have to go now." They ran through the forest, the trees glowing from the energy she released. Behind them, more ships were coming. The Council would not stop now. By sunrise, they reached an old outpost hidden beneath the cliffs. Ryan activated the security shields and set Lyra inside. He finally sat down, exhausted. Lyra came to him quietly and said, "I bad?" Ryan looked at her for a long time before answering. "No, Lyra, you're not bad. You're just different, and that scares people." She touched his face with her small blue hand. "You not scared?" He smiled softly. "Maybe a little, but I trust you." Outside, the wind howled through the valley, carrying the smoke of the fallen ships. Inside, Ryan stared at the glowing symbols that appeared on Lyra's hands, marks that hadn't been there before. He didn't know what they meant, but he knew they were important. Something ancient had awakened inside the girl, and somewhere across the stars, others were beginning to feel it too. The Council believed they could control the law of the galaxy, but they had never faced the power that slept inside one small child. And as Ryan held her close that night, he realized something. Maybe the universe was about to change again, because of her. The sun never rose that morning. Thick clouds covered the sky like a warning. Ryan woke to the sound of distant thunder, but it wasn't from the weather. It was something deeper, something alive. Lyra sat near the cave entrance, watching the dark horizon, her eyes glowing faint silver. She whispered, "They come." Ryan stepped beside her, his heart heavy. "What do you mean, Lyra?" he asked. She pointed toward the sky. "Bad stars moving." He followed her gaze and saw them. Small dots of red light spreading across the heavens. They weren't stars, they were ships. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, moving in formation. Ryan's breath caught. No, it can't be. He quickly turned on his old scanner. The readings were impossible. Energy signatures stronger than anything Earth had ever seen. They matched the same kind that destroyed Lyra's planet, the same kind that killed millions. The darkness had returned. Within hours, every major city on Earth saw them. News screens flashed warnings, governments panicked. People looked up and saw red lights filling the sky like burning embers. The Galactic Council sent a transmission to every world. The Scourge fleet has returned. All planets must prepare for war. And at the same time, they sent another message, a secret one. To Captain Ryan, surrender the celery child immediately. She is the key. Ryan read the message in silence. He knew what it meant. They wanted to use Lyra as a weapon. They didn't care if she lived or died, as long as she helped them win. He turned off the communicator and looked at her. Lyra sat quietly, holding her toy spaceship, unaware of the message. Her small voice broke the silence. "Ryan? Bad people again?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, Lyra. But this time they're not just looking for you. They're coming for everyone." Her eyes filled with tears. "I make this happen?" Ryan knelt down and took her hands. "No, Lyra. This is not your fault. This is their choice. And ours will be to fight." That night, explosions flickered far away. The first alien fleet had entered orbit, striking the defense satellites. Ryan tried to contact his friend Hale, but the signal was weak. Through the static, Hale's voice came. "Ryan, the Council. They need her. The Scourge fears her kind. They think she can stop them." Ryan frowned. "And what if she can't?" "Then we lose everything," Hale said softly. "But she's our only hope." Ryan sat in silence after the call. He looked at Lyra, who was drawing circles of light in the dirt with her glowing hands. He thought of the promise he had made, to protect her no matter what. But now, the world needed her. How could he keep her safe and still save everyone else? The next morning they left the cave. Ryan guided Lyra through the mountain path to an old military base buried in stone. It was silent, abandoned, but its systems still worked. He turned on the command screens, maps lighting up with enemy positions. Lyra stood beside him, staring at the images, red dots covering the planet. "Big war again," she said softly. Ryan nodded. "Yes, but this time, we fight together." Outside, thunder shook the air. The kind that came from engines, not clouds. The first alien ships broke through the sky, sending fire into the oceans and forests. Earth's defenses lit up, firing blue beams into the heavens. The war for survival had begun. As chaos spread, the Council ships finally arrived. Ryan was ready to fight them, but to his surprise, they didn't attack. Instead, a message appeared on the screen. "Captain Ryan, this is Council Leader Sarath. We come in peace. We need the Solari child." Ryan hesitated. "You want to use her?" Sarath's voice was calm but urgent. "No, human. We want her to lead. Her energy is the only thing the Scourge fears." Ryan looked at Lyra, who stood silently, her hands glowing again. She seemed to understand everything without words. She turned to Ryan and said softly, "Maybe I help now." He shook his head. "Lyra, it's too dangerous." She smiled sadly. "You saved me, now I save you." Before he could stop her, she walked toward the center of the base. Her eyes shone brighter than ever before, silver light spreading across the walls like waves. The Council soldiers watched in awe. Energy readings spiked beyond their sensors. A wind rose inside the base. Not natural wind, but power, pure and living. Lyra closed her eyes and lifted her hands toward the sky. The clouds split apart, revealing the massive alien fleet above. For a moment, everything went silent. Then a beam of white light shot upward from her body, cutting through the darkness. The Scourge ships paused, almost afraid. Ryan covered his eyes, shouting her name, "Lyra!" But her voice echoed through the comms, soft yet powerful. "I'm not afraid anymore." Across the galaxy, sensors picked up her energy. Worlds far away turned their eyes toward Earth, some in fear, some in hope. Ryan stood there, unable to move. He didn't know what would happen next. But deep inside, he felt something, a shift in the balance of the universe. The darkness had returned, yes. But now, for the first time, the light had answered back. The sky burned red, the air trembled with the roar of engines and the cry of war. From orbit to the ground, the planet shook under the clash of light and fire. Earth had never faced such a storm, and in the middle of it all stood a human soldier and an alien child, united by something stronger than fear. Ryan stood on the balcony of the old command base. Smoke rose in the distance where cities once stood. Every screen inside showed the same sight. Alien ships covering the horizon like a swarm. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes glowing like moons, her hands shaking. "You don't have to do this," Ryan whispered. Lyra looked up, her small voice steady. "I must, Ryan. They come for me, the bad." Council ships had landed on Earth too, not to fight humans this time, but to fight beside them. For the first time in history, humans and aliens stood shoulder to shoulder, soldiers from 100 worlds prepared for battle under the same sky, and at the center of their hope was a small child who didn't even understand why she was special. Commander Hale's voice echoed through the comms. "All units, protect the Solari child at all costs." Ryan gritted his teeth, watching as the first wave of the Scourge descended. Black ships rained fire upon the earth, tearing through the clouds like blades of darkness. Explosions lit the horizon. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered, "I feel them. They angry. They want to destroy everything." Ryan touched her shoulder gently. "Then we'll stop them together." The ground shook as the battle began. Earth's defense cannons fired, sending blue beams of light into the sky. Alien drones flew overhead, spinning and crashing in the air. The sound of war was everywhere. Thunder, fire, screams, hope. Ryan led a squad through the ruins, covering Lyra as she walked calmly through chaos. Bullets and beams missed her as if the air itself bent around her. Her power was growing stronger, glowing brighter. Every step she took left trails of silver light across the cracked ground. Suddenly, the comms crackled. "Ryan, enemy command ship detected. They're heading straight for your sector." He looked up and saw it, a massive black ship blotting out the sun. It wasn't just a ship, it was a fortress. Lyra looked at it quietly. "That one destroyed my home." Ryan froze. The words hit him like a knife. He finally understood. This wasn't just another battle for her. This was the monster that had taken everything from her. The ship's voice boomed across the battlefield. "You hide what belongs to us, human." It was the Scourge leader, its voice deep and cold. Ryan shouted back, "She belongs to no one." The voice laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "She carries our blood, our power. She is one of us." Lyra's face turned pale. "No, I'm not like them." Ryan knelt beside her, gripping her hand. "You're not, Lyra. You're better." The black ship fired a massive beam toward the ground. The earth split open, flames shooting upward. Ryan shielded Lyra, but she stood firm, her eyes glowing pure white now. Energy rippled around her like waves of light. The beam stopped midair, frozen in front of her like glass. She lifted her hands and pushed. The energy exploded backward, hitting the ship and shattering its shields. Every soldier stopped for a moment, watching in disbelief. Ryan whispered, "She did it." But Lyra's power didn't stop. Her light spread across the sky, connecting to every ship, every weapon, every heartbeat. Through her, the armies felt each other. Human and alien minds linked by the same pulse, they fought as one. For the first time, there was no fear between species, only unity. Ryan felt her energy burn through him. Powerful, pure, endless. But he also felt her pain. Her body couldn't hold it much longer. "Lyra, stop," he shouted. "You'll hurt yourself." She smiled weakly. "If I stop, they win." Tears filled his eyes. "You're just a child." Her voice softened. "You teach me brave, now I be brave too." The light around her grew brighter. The Scourge fleet began to fall, ships crashing like falling stars. The earth trembled, mountains cracked, oceans boiled, and then everything went silent. The light faded slowly. Ryan looked around. The enemy was gone. The sky was clear. Only Lyra stood in the center of the battlefield, her glow fading. He ran to her, his heart pounding. She turned toward him, her face pale but peaceful. "Ryan," she whispered, "it's over." He caught her as she collapsed into his arms. Her heartbeat was faint, her small hands cold. "Stay with me, Lyra, please," he begged. She looked up at him with soft eyes. "I save you now." All around them, soldiers fell to their knees. The battle was won, but the cost was heavy. Ryan held her close, tears mixing with dust and smoke. He looked up at the quiet sky and whispered, "You did it, Lyra. You saved us all." And somewhere above the clouds, the stars began to shine again, brighter than ever before, as if the universe itself was bowing to the smallest hero it had ever known. Silence fell over the battlefield. For the first time in months, the sky above Earth was clear. No fire, no smoke, only the slow glow of sunrise breaking through the clouds. The war was over, but peace came with the sound of sorrow. Because where victory stood, something precious had been lost. Ryan sat in the middle of the ruined valley, the ground still warm from the final blast. He held Lyra in his arms, her small body still and fragile, her skin once bright with light, now pale like fading stars. He whispered her name again and again. "Lyra, wake up." But she didn't move. The soldiers around them stood in silence. Humans, aliens, council officers, all united by grief. They watched the man who had broken the law of the stars now kneel in the ashes, holding the child who had saved their worlds. Commander Hale approached slowly, his voice soft. "Ryan, she did it. She saved us all." Ryan didn't answer. He just looked at Lyra's small hand resting in his. "She was just a little girl," he said quietly. "She didn't deserve this." The council ships hovered above, sending healing drones and rescue teams, but Ryan pushed them away. "She's not an experiment," he said bitterly. "She's family." Hale nodded sadly. "Then let her rest, as one of us." As the sun rose higher, the ground around them began to shimmer. Strange light spread from Lyra's body, covering the earth like liquid silver. Ryan stepped back in shock. The soldiers raised their weapons, but he shouted, "No, wait!" The light wasn't burning, it was healing. Grass began to grow through the cracks, broken metal melted into the soil. The air turned warm and soft. It was as if the planet itself was breathing again. Ryan realized it was her final gift, her last bit of power returning life to a broken world. He knelt beside her again, tears running down his face. "Even now, you're saving us," he whispered. A small smile touched her lips, faint but real, and then the light faded, leaving behind peace. Days later, the war officially ended. Every world that had survived sent messages of gratitude. The Galactic Council announced a new law. The Celery shall no longer be feared, but remembered as protectors of life. Ryan listened to the broadcast from the quiet hill outside the rebuilt city. He didn't care about laws anymore. He only cared about keeping his promise. A week later, they built a memorial at the heart of the valley where the final battle took place. It wasn't made of gold or crystal, just stone and light. At the center stood a small statue of a girl with outstretched hands, and under it, words carved by Ryan himself. Lyra, the child who made the stars remember hope. People came from across the galaxy to see it. Humans, aliens, soldiers, children, all brought flowers, drawings, and gifts. Some whispered prayers, others just stood in silence. Ryan came every morning bringing a single white flower. He never spoke, he just looked at her name and smiled sadly. One evening, as the wind blew softly across the memorial, a faint light appeared. It floated above the statue, small, silver, and warm. Ryan froze, his heart racing. The light moved closer, resting gently on his hand. For a moment, he felt a familiar warmth. A voice echoed in his mind, soft and clear. "Don't be sad, Ryan. I'm still here." He looked up at the sky, tears falling. "Lyra?" he whispered. The light shimmered, dancing like a tiny star. Then it rose higher, joining the night sky, and one new star appeared above the valley. Brighter than all the others. Years passed, but the story of the human and the alien girl spread across galaxies. People told it in schools, in space stations, on distant moons. Some called it a legend, some called it truth. But Ryan never cared what they called it. He knew what was real. He knew love could change even the laws of the stars. One night, an ambassador from the council visited him. She said, "Captain Ryan, the galaxy owes you everything. What do you wish?" He looked at the stars and replied softly, "I wish no one forgets her." And they didn't. Every year on the day of the final battle, lights filled the sky, a celebration of peace. Children released glowing lanterns into the air, whispering her name. "Lyra," they said, "the girl who saved us." Ryan grew old, but he never left the valley. He spent his last days watching the stars from the same spot where she had once stood, and when he finally closed his eyes for the last time, the wind whispered softly, "Welcome home." The universe moved on, but something had changed forever. Humans and aliens lived together, learning, growing, building a better world, and far beyond the edge of every galaxy, a single star still shone brighter than the rest. It was said that if you looked at it and made a wish, you could still hear a gentle voice, a voice that once said, "You save me, now I save you." And in that light, the galaxy remembered that sometimes the smallest heart carries the greatest power, and even after the darkest war, love can still outshine the stars.